All right, and welcome back. So now we're going to talk about Elon Musk calls some Trump supporters contemptible fools, escalating MAGA handlers. All right, so I'm sure you guys have heard some of this Elon Musk stuff where he's done some mean tweets to MAGA and whatnot. We're going to go over that right now. Oops.
In his clash with the far right over immigration, Elon Musk is now going after the hardliners, the very heart of the MAGA base, labeling them just a few hours ago as, quote, contemptible fools who must be removed from the Republican Party root and stem. Musk now finds himself pitted against the likes of Steve Bannon, however, Trump's former White House aide, who came out against Musk's push for H-1B visas, which allow highly skilled foreign workers into the U.S. and has long been the lifeblood of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, them Trump supporters wasn't on them immigrants, huh?
H-1B visas, that's not what it's about. It's about taking American jobs and bringing over essentially what become indentured servants at lower wages. This thing's a scam by the oligarchs in Silicon Valley to basically take jobs from American citizens, give them to what become indentured servants from foreign countries, and then pay them less.
The point of capitalism is to pay workers less so that you make more profits, and then you make more profits for your board members. Be you send the jobs overseas, be you hire illegal immigrants that cross the border, or be it you bring them in legally and pay them less.
Simple. To let them into through the golden door.
If you're not doing bodyweight strength, you're nuts. I fixed 5 bulging discs gained from years of sitting.
Now, Bannon's comments align him with people like the far-right activist Laura Loomer, who has been bashing Musk for days now on this and is even accusing him of censoring her on his own platform. She is the anti-immigrant Trump ally who is now claiming that her blue checkmark was removed, her subscriptions were deactivated, her character limits for tweets and posts on X were limited for what she says is, quote, raising concerns and speaking the truth about the technocratic takeover of our country in the White House. Now, that was after she posted racist messages like this, saying our country was built by white Europeans, actually, not third world invaders from India.
The last I checked, our country was built by slaves.
What she is being...
Unpaid workers.
What she is saying about why she lost those privileges on X in a moment with Donny O'Sullivan. But all of this began after Trump named Shriram Krishnan, a tech entrepreneur and investor who was born in India, as his senior policy advisor on artificial intelligence. He's not an immigration advisor for Trump, but this started this entire backlash. And it's culminated today with Elon Musk not backing off of his stance, despite the backlash that he is facing from the MAGA right. Instead, he's writing tonight, anyone of any race, creed, or nationality who came to America and worked like hell to contribute to this country will forever have my respect. Noticeably silent in all of this infighting in his party, the president-elect himself. My political sources tonight are the former Deputy Assistant to President Biden, Jamal Simmons, Editor-in-Chief.
And when is Trump ever silent?
Chief of the Dispatch, Jonah Goldberg, and CNN senior correspondent Donny O'Sullivan. And it's great to have you all here. Jonah, I'm sure you've been watching, just like I have, as all of this has been playing out, only, getting worse today with really just seeing these people at each other's throats on lines. What does it say to you that Trump himself, who is the king of weighing in on things online, has not done so?
Because he doesn't have a good answer to this problem, right? He's got a very tight, small coalition as presidents go, and there's just not a lot of give in it. I mean, it's symbolized by the fact he's going to have a 2-seat, maybe with this new defection, a 3-seat majority in the House. If you have 3 or 4 or 5 congresspeople who agree with Laura Loomer and Steve Bannon, then you can't get any legislation done that Elon Musk wants. And so he's stuck in this hard place where he hasn't quite yet figured out how to get peace amongst the various Trumpy tribes back together. And I don't think this is going to be the schism that tears apart MAGA, but it is the first sign of what is probably going to be a good number of schisms and fault lines that divide people who have irreconcilable positions.
Yeah, it is remarkable to see this because some people who, have studied Elon Musk for a long time were saying that when this friendship was blossoming, that inevitably there are major differences between Trump's base and them on this issue. And Donnie, just on how all of this started was with Trump's pick for an AI advisory role that's going to be sitting not in the West Wing, but in the building next door. And, you know, this has caused such a huge issue where Laura Loomer, we'll get into that in a moment, but was accused of posting his address online and sharing documents like that, which is why some people said was the real reason she was taken away from those things on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, a big part of the reason that this advisor in question is being targeted is because he's not white. He's Indian. And, you know, you can just go on to X and see the vitriol around this conversation. I mean, they try and say it's about visas and everything else, but really you do not need to scratch the surface too far just to see the level of racism and hate and just really ugly stuff that's happening on that platform. And that is in part, right, because
I'm not on X all that much, so I haven't seen the vitriol on X, so I'm gonna have to let them show me.
a lot of the white supremacists and racists and others who had been suspended by Twitter for spreading hate under the previous ownership were all brought back onto the platform under Elon Musk. And so what you're having now is you have people who are also incentivized by the structure put in place in Musk to have these kind of viral posts where they pick on somebody essentially and try to get them to go viral.
And chief among them is Laura Loomer, who, for people who don't, she's not a household name. For people who don't know her, you know, she has pushed conspiracies about 9/11, even though Trump took her to the 9/11 memorial with him. She was on his campaign plane. You know, we saw her getting off of it with him earlier during the 2024 race, not that long ago. She is claiming Musk is censoring her. I heard from people who are opposed to her earlier today saying that's not what's happening here. What did happen with her account?
So yeah, Loomer has about 1.5 million followers on X. She's a big voice in the MAGA world, right? As much as I think maybe a lot of establishment Republicans, even people who are close to Trump, would like to say that, you know, she doesn't have influence. She does certainly in this space. What happened over the past 24 hours is she has a verified blue badge account, which I think to a lot of people just say, so what, it's a blue badge. But what that allows her to do on the platform under Musk is it allows two things. One, it allows her to get revenue from the ads that are shown next to her posts. So that's a way that Musk has set up the platform to try and monetize it, to try and make encourage people to post more on the platform. And also she has paid subscribers on the platform. We don't know how much money she was making, but oftentimes that can go into the...
Speaking of like, share, and subscribe, I don't ask you guys to pay nothing. Got a few subscribers. Subscribe, the more subscribers, the more likes. I'll let YouTube pay me.
Many thousands every month. So that has been taken away from her. We haven't heard from X, we haven't heard from Musk specifically, but Musk did call her out a few times during the week, essentially calling her a troll.
Yeah, I think he outright called her
a troll
at one point. Undeniably, she is. I think that everyone, if you like her or dislike her, can agree on that. Jamal, we're going to ask a House Republican in a moment about his view on this and where this stands, as Jonah was referencing, you know, whether anything can get done in Congress. We had Jared Polis, the Democratic governor of Colorado, on the program last night. He was agreeing with Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, and I heard from people after saying, you know, that's not going to help Elon as he's making his case here, with Democrats agreeing with him.
Yeah, the problem on the Republican side right now, the MAGA Republicans, is they've got three strains. The one strain is sort of the economically anxious, the people who kind of could go either way. They just want lower grocery prices, more affordable housing. They thought Trump might be the guy. You've got these ideologues like Laura Loomer who are sort of culturally anxious, right? They don't want an America that's going to become browner. They're trying to preserve kind of a white Christian heterosexual culture that they believe is the core American culture and ought to be the one that exists. Now, Laura Loomer ignores when she says Europeans built the country. She ignores the African slaves. She ignores the Chinese immigrants who did the railroad.
Right.
She ignores the people from Mexican heritage in the Southwest who worked, and then Native Americans who were here first. She ignores everyone else who was in the country. So the problem is, they've got to figure out how to Trump has got to figure out how to hold these people together. I just don't know if it's possible. Because at the end of the day, the only way the country grows is if we do have more immigrants who come into the country who help populate and move the country forward, and that we make it more diverse, where we recruit and retain people from different backgrounds into these tech industries.
But see, with the diversity, we need to be the melting pot that we said we were going to be. If anybody comes in, be they Samoan, Mexican, Chinese, Russian, right? say a Russian gets with a Chinese person. I was at a food stand earlier, right? It was a Chinese Mexican fusion. And so the husband was Mexican, the wife is Chinese. And they fused their food, right? And they got 2 kids. Oh, they had at least 1 kid, and then she was pregnant. So they have 2 kids, about to have 2 kids anyway. So to me, the kid should be able to speak Mexican because the dad, right? Or Spanish, my bad. The kid should be able to speak Spanish. The kid should be able to speak Chinese and obviously speak English because they're here. And then the dad should teach a little bit of Mexican culture, whatever culture he wants to teach the child, and the mom should teach whatever Chinese culture she wants to teach the child. And then we're in Hawaii, so the child should probably learn a little bit of Hawaiian culture, and then obviously American U.S. culture. And that child will have a lot more well-roundedness, right? And anybody in America, like, oh, well, you're in America, speak American. Stop. If you have a Mexican or South American person, wife, husband, whatever, and y'all have kids, they should speak that language and English. If you speak Russian, then they should speak Russian. But we should be teaching the culture of where we come from, whoever we are in the U.S. and America, this melting pot. Let's open it up. Teach our kids. Do not ever not teach your kids your language. Anything that you know that you can teach your kid, teach them that, man. That's crazy that there's a lot of people who came here and didn't teach their kid their language because they wanted their kids to be accepted in the racist America, and we're less racist now. But again, if they would have taught their kids this stuff, then it'd be less racist sooner, because you just have more knowledge out there, more knowledge, more intelligence, less racism.
So that we can have an economy that can compete with everybody in the world.
Yeah, and Jonah, on that front, we heard from Loomer earlier today saying, still pushing her position. Obviously, as I read just a moment ago, Elon Musk is very much still advocating for his, despite the immense backlash he's been facing. But listen to what Loomer said about what she plans to do with her position on this earlier.
I'm going to escalate it all the way up to President Trump. I'm going to take it to advisors, and I'm going to take it to people I know who have been appointed to cabinet positions. And I'm going to ask them, is this the type of America that we're going to be living in? Are these the campaign promises that were made to MAGA and the American people?
I mean, she does have a direct line to Trump, obviously. We've seen that. Trump has said he doesn't control her. But Elon Musk is someone who's basically living at Mar-a-Lago. And I think that is a real question of whether or not, as you were saying, maybe it's not the full rift, but it's the start of one potentially in this scenario.
For sure. I think it's one rift among a bunch that will probably come down the pike as we move forward. But look, I mean, it would take a heart of stone not to laugh at the situation that they've gotten themselves into. Trump, is this classic, what do I have to do to put you in this condo today kind of salesman. And he makes promises to the Musk faction. He makes promises to the Laura Loomer faction and a bunch of other factions in between that cannot be reconciled with each other. And look, I'm much closer to Elon Musk on the policy issue here than I am, even remotely with Laura Loomer about any of this stuff. But one of the ironies of all this is that all of these people across the spectrum, they rode this populist tide in, claiming that establishment Republicans and conservative establishment and the old Reaganite crowd, the old National Review crowd, they don't know anything and all the answers are super easy and we know exactly what to do. And then it turns out they come in and it turns out this stuff is really complicated. H-1B program is complicated for how you reform it, how do you expand it, what do you do about chain migration? And the serious people were all pushed aside in favor of all of these populist yahoos from Steve Bannon on down. And now they're the dog that caught the car and they don't know how to do any of this policy because they haven't done any of the legwork on it.
Can we stop with the self-care week? Like, what if we did adult weeks?
All right, well, enough of that then. On to First Post. We've got a couple of them today. They have we've been talking about propaganda today. I was talking about how First Post has a Western tilt to it. Then we talked about the Chinese and African stuff and how where the West is saying China's trying to teach Africa to push Chinese propaganda. So lots of propaganda. But anyway, here's first post on the Elon Musk stuff. Still going to be a little
They're calling it a MAGA civil war. Donald Trump supporters versus other Donald Trump supporters. It's bitter, it's racist, but frankly, it's also predictable. And guess who's caught in the middle of this civil war? The Indian American community. Let me tell you where it all started. Last week, Donald Trump picked an advisor for artificial intelligence. His name is Sri Ramakrishnan. Now, Krishnan was born in Chennai. He went on to work for many US companies like Microsoft, Twitter, Facebook, and Snap. In 2021, he turned to venture capitalism. He mainly focused on companies working with AI. In other words, he's the perfect pick. He can nudge America's AI policy in the right direction, but Trump's core base is not happy. And what's their issue? Not Krishnan's resume or experience. Their problem is his race. Some Trump supporters do not want an Indian American in the presidential team. They have two problems. One,
Vivek Ramaswamy is Indian, and they knew he was going to be on Doge. That's kind of odd.
That Krishnan has Indian heritage.
And what's the lady's name? Nancy? Not Nancy. I'll remember. But there's an Indian lady that supported Trump too. That's a Republican. There's a few Indians in the Republican Party.
It doesn't sit well with their white supremacy goals. And two, that he supports immigration, specifically with the H-1B visa. Now, H-1B is a special visa category in the US. It mainly covers high-skilled jobs, like engineers or IT professionals or professors. And right now, H-1B visas are capped. There is an upper limit on how many visas can be issued. Sri Ramakrishnan is in favor of removing the cap, but the far right does not like that. And leading the charge is Laura Loomer. She's a far-right conspiracy theorist. She's also a darling of Trump supporters. Loomer is leading the racist campaign against Krishnan and Indian Americans. She has mocked the IQ of Indians. She also called the H-1B visa applicants third world invaders. But guess who is opposing her? Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, both of them have defended Sri Ramakrishnan. They're also calling for more foreign talent in America. In fact, listen to what Ramaswamy said. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, a culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian.
I'm slightly confused. If he really thinks this, why would you come here?
Will not produce the best engineers. He basically dissed American culture, and that has riled up the far right even more. You see, the original MAGA was made up of conservatives. It even included far-right lunatics like Loomer. They do not like any policy that will increase migration. Instead, they want to focus on American workers. But the new MAGA is different. It is dominated by tech bros like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Musk himself is a migrant, and Ramaswamy is the son of migrants. For them, the migration problem is limited to Mexico. They do not oppose talented migrants. Right now, we are seeing the clash of these two groups, but frankly, it is not surprising. We saw indications of this when Ramaswamy ran for president. He was more Trumpian than Trump himself. Yet MAGA questioned him. They asked, why should a Hindu become US president? They said Hinduism was wicked and pagan. So these fault lines are not new. The euphoria of Trump's victory hid them temporarily, but now they're being exposed. And Donald Trump must take the blame for this. He kept feeding the fire of white supremacy. He villainized migrants for politics. And look at the result. The OG MAGA hates all migrants. Doesn't matter if you're talented. Doesn't matter if you're pro-Trump or not.
I wouldn't say they hate all migrants. If you come from Europe, you're pretty good. You're kosher.
They hate all of them. Because the sentiment is rooted in race and religion. The question is, what happens next? Ideally, Trump should be defending Sri Ramakrishnan. He's defended a number of his other cabinet picks, including a man who allegedly paid for sex with a minor. Yet, Trump is silent on Krishnan. It tells you everything about Donald Trump. This is a man who will do anything for power, even push his own allies under the bus. It's also a wake-up call for tech bros like Elon Musk. They basked in MAGA glory after November, but now they're facing MAGA fury. They're being forced to confront the true reality of Donald Trump's support base. And the best part? His presidency hasn't even started yet. Don't be surprised if this civil war escalates after January.
For the Trump voters, it's not just illegal immigration that is upsetting them.
I walked into a small conference room with about 24 highly respected fellow IT workers. The Disney executive made a harsh announcement to us all. All of you in this room will be losing your jobs in the next 90 days. Your jobs have been given over to a foreign workforce. In the meantime, you will be training your replacements until your jobs are 100% transferred over to them. And if you do not cooperate, you will not receive any severance pay.
Ooh, your money.
I was completely silent during this meeting, thinking how this was going to affect my coworkers.
Honey, the girls are fighting. The girls are fighting.
So let me get this straight. So Vivek Ramaswamy, I mean, he just didn't write a tweet. He wrote a
screed. It was a screed.
Screed. I mean, it just went on, and he laid out basically, y'all white folks out here should have been focused on doing a little bit more Urkel than anything else.
Less
Stefan. You know, and it's just, Simone, I'm tickled. I'm tickled by this. Who would have saw?
So a culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World or Zack and Slater over Screech and Saved by the Bell, or Stefan over Steve Urkel and Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. So that's what Vivek Ramaswamy tweeted. I don't know if I had that in this video or not, so I had to read it out.
All this coming.
Tonight.
So that's about a little bit about immigration, right? You see the right, they're getting a little bit hostile, they're getting a little bit up in arms. Vivek wants to bring in the right kind of immigrants while the right doesn't want any immigrants, or they just only want certain immigrants, you know, mostly from like, say, Europe, Australia, Canada, those type of places, you know. But if you're from, you know, you got, you know, the more melanated places, then we don't want you here. But until next time.